6:47 in the morning. January 22nd, 1944. Anzio, Italy. 13 minutes before 0 hour. The cold bit through everything. Corporal Silas Hadley lay motionless on the limestone outcropping, breath forming clouds in the pre-dawn air. Below him, 4 miles distant, the Mediterranean reflected grey light like tarnished silver. Above, nothing but rock and sky and the promise of violence. Fog clung to the cliff face, dense, white, moving like something alive. He could smell it. Salt from the sea mixing with cordite residue, damp earth, the mineral tang of limestone pressed against skin for hours. And underneath, something else his body recognized before his mind did. Fear. Silas adjusted his position. The M1903 Springfield shifted with him, stock cold against his cheek. Through the 8-power scope, the world compressed into a narrow cone of clarity. And in that clarity, he counted. 1, 2, 3. Machine gun positions, carefully camouflaged. Reverse slope emplacements aerial reconnaissance would never see. 4, 5, 6. Each one a killing box, interlocking fields of fire, professional, German. His heart rate stayed steady, 48 beats per minute, farm boy lungs, Iowa endurance. 7, 8, 9. The fog shifted, revealed, concealed, revealed again. 13, 14, 15, Jesus Christ, 16, 17. Silas lifted his eye from the scope, blinked, rubbed cold from his lashes, checked again. Still 17. 17 MG-42 nests dug into Ridge 93 like ticks in skin. Every one aimed at the valley floor, every one waiting. In 13 minutes, 300 American soldiers would walk into their sights. The calculation was simple, brutal, inescapable. 1,200 rounds per minute. That was the MG-42's rate of fire. The Germans called it the bone saw. Americans had other names. None polite, all earned. 1,200 rounds per minute, times 17 guns. 20,400 bullets in the first 60 seconds, against men crossing 400 yards of open ground with nowhere to hide. Silas had grown up on a farm. He understood numbers, understood yield and loss, understood when the equation didn't balance. This one screamed. He keyed the radio. Static crackled. "Command, this is Sierra 2, priority traffic, over." A voice responded, young, confident, West Point educated. "Sierra 2, this is command, send traffic, over." "Command, I have visual confirmation of machine gun positions on Ridge 93. Count is 17. Repeat, 17 MG positions with interlocking fire. Request immediate delay of advance pending artillery support. Over." 5 seconds. 10. "Sierra 2, that count is inconsistent with division intelligence assessment. Aerial reconnaissance confirms light resistance only. Are you certain of your count? Over." Silas examined the ridge through his scope. Counted again. 17. "Command, I'm observing gun ports. Reverse slope positions. Aerial can't see them. Request delay. Over." Longer pause. "Negative Sierra 2. Intelligence stands. Attack proceeds at 0800 as scheduled. Air support inbound at 0900. Maintain position. Do not engage. Do not compromise observation post. Acknowledge. Over." Air support at 0900. 1 hour after the attack. 1 hour too late. Sierra 2 acknowledges. Out. Silas lowered the radio, checked his watch. The luminous hands glowed faint green. 7:53. 7 minutes until 300 men stepped into industrial slaughter. He had seen men die before. War made you a collector, a cataloguer. Your mind created files whether you wanted it to. Organized the dead by method, by speed, by the sounds they made. But 2 deaths lived in Silas Hadley's chest, like shrapnel you couldn't extract. The first was Sergeant Dutch Keller, 5 months earlier, Sicily, August 1943. Dutch wasn't Dutch. He was Walter Keller from Pennsylvania, Shamokin, coal country, where men went underground for money and came up for air, where climbing meant survival and falling meant your family collected insurance instead of paychecks. Dutch taught Silas to climb. "It's all weight distribution, kid," he'd say. "Your legs do the work, arms are for balance, and always test your anchor." Dutch was 29, old for a sergeant in a rifle company. Coal mines aged you different, made you careful, made you understand angles and stress points, and how much weight a thing could hold before it gave up. They'd been tasked with reconnaissance in Sicily, German artillery battery on a ridge. Locate, report, don't engage. But the ridge had a cliff face, 80 feet of crumbling limestone, and Dutch studied it the way some men studied whiskey. "I can get up there. Come at them from behind." The lieutenant had been clear. "Reconnaissance only, Sergeant. No unauthorized action." Dutch nodded, saluted, waited for the lieutenant to leave, then started climbing. Silas watched from below, watched Dutch find handholds where none seemed to exist, watched him move like water finding cracks in stone, smooth, efficient, beautiful the way competence is always beautiful. 50 feet up, 60, 70, almost there. Then the German patrol appeared. 4 men, young, alert. One glanced up. What followed took maybe 10 seconds. The shout, the scramble for weapons, the MG-42 opening up, the sound of bullets hitting rock, hitting flesh, hitting both. Dutch tried to drop, to find cover where there was none. But gravity and gunfire don't negotiate. He fell. Not jumped, not climbed down. Fell. 80 feet through air that had turned hostile. The sound of impact was something Silas heard in his sleep. Dutch died instantly. The doctor said so later. Said it like it was kindness. Like instant made it better. But Silas had been the one who reached him first. Had seen the angles all wrong. The geometry of bones that shouldn't bend that way. The stillness that was too still. He'd understood, kneeling there in Sicilian dirt, that climbing without backup was just falling with extra steps. After Sicily, Command issued new guidelines. No unauthorized climbing operations. No solo vertical infiltrations. Dutch Keller had become a cautionary tale, a regulation, a reason to say no. Silas kept his climbing knife, the one Dutch had given him, for cutting rope in emergencies, or anything else that needs cutting. He hadn't used it yet. The second death was slower. Private Brooks Nathaniel, 20 years old, farm boy from Ohio, corn country like Silas's Iowa, the kind of place where people still waved at passing cars and meant it. Brooks had enlisted the same day Silas did, December 10th, 1941, 3 days after Pearl Harbor. They'd taken the train to Fort Benning together, bunked next to each other through basic, discovered they both missed the smell of turned earth and the sound of rain on barn roofs. "When this is over," Brooks had said, "I'm buying the biggest farm I can find, somewhere quiet, somewhere you can't hear guns." That was before Italy, before November 1943, before the ambush. The company had been advancing through a small village, standard movement, staggered formation, all the training, all the discipline. The machine guns opened up from nowhere and everywhere at once. Hidden positions, dug in overnight, camouflaged with rubble and burlap and patience. The first burst cut down the point man. The second found the squad leader. The third started walking fire across the formation. Men dropped, some dead, some screaming, some silent with the specific silence of shock. Brooks had been 10 yards ahead of Silas, moving low, doing everything right. The burst caught him center mass, 3 rounds, maybe 4. Brooks went down hard. Silas crawled to him, through debris and dirt and blood, through fire that chewed the earth on both sides, through odds that said he should be dead too, but somehow left him breathing. He reached Brooks in maybe 15 seconds, found him conscious, alert, making sounds that weren't quite words. The wounds were bad. Silas knew immediately, knew from the location, knew from the color of what was coming out, Knew from the way Brooks's hands kept reaching for something to hold onto and finding nothing. "Medic!" Silas screamed, was still screaming, would scream until his throat bled. But the medic was pinned down. Everyone was pinned down. So Silas did what he could, pulled the field dressing from Brooks's webbing, pressed it against the wounds, pressed hard, felt blood pulse against his palms with each heartbeat. Warm. Wrong. Too much. "You're okay. You're okay. Medic's coming. You're okay." Brooks's eyes found his, clear, brown, terrified. "Si, I can't breathe right." "Don't talk. Save your strength." But Brooks kept talking, kept trying, his voice getting smaller, his breathing getting harder. The medic finally arrived, Doc Martinez, good man, good hands. He took one look and his face said everything. "Liver. Maybe spleen too. I can't. There's nothing I can do here. He needs a surgeon. Now." But there was no surgeon. No now. Just rubble and gunfire and time running out. Brooks lived for 38 minutes. 38 minutes of Silas holding pressure on wounds that wouldn't stop bleeding. Of Doc Martinez trying things that wouldn't work. Of Brooks asking questions that had no good answers. The worst part wasn't the pain. Brooks had morphine for that. The worst part was the awareness. Brooks was conscious, lucid, present. He could feel what was happening, could understand it, could watch Silas's face and read the truth there no matter how hard Silas tried to hide it. "Si," he said, maybe 20 minutes in, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not making it out of here, am I?" And Silas, who'd been trained to never give up, couldn't lie anymore. "No. I'm sorry, Brooks. I'm so sorry." Brooks nodded, just a little. His hand found Silas's arm, gripped it, weak but deliberate. "Promise me something. Anything. Don't let them walk into another one. Don't let this happen to someone else. Promise." "I promise." "Say it. Say you won't let them walk into it." "I won't let them walk into it. I swear to you, Brooks. I swear." Brooks's grip loosened, his breathing changed, got shallower, faster, then slower, then gone. After Brooks, something changed in Silas Hadley. Not all at once, not dramatically, just a quiet hardening, like metal cooling after the forge. He understood now that the people making decisions weren't always the people who could see the truth. Intelligence said light resistance. Intelligence hadn't watched Brooks drown in blood. Intelligence sat in tents and read reports and moved pins on maps. Intelligence had never held the warm hand of someone dying young. 7:56. 4 minutes to 0 hour. Silas studied the ridge through his scope. The 17 machine gun nests hadn't moved, wouldn't move, were dug in and camouflaged and waiting with German patience. Below, in the valley, he could see Baker Company forming up, small figures in the grey dawn, 300 men checking weapons, adjusting webbing, sharing cigarettes, making the small jokes men make before walking into uncertainty. They didn't know, couldn't know, would walk forward when the whistle blew because that's what soldiers do. In the first 10 seconds, 50 would fall. In the first minute, 100. In 5 minutes, everyone. The calculation was certain. Silas keyed his radio one more time. "Command, this is Sierra 2. Final warning. 17 machine gun positions confirmed. Request abort or delay. Over." The voice that came back was different, harder, annoyed. "Sierra 2, you are ordered to maintain radio silence. Your reports are noted and dismissed. Division intelligence assessment stands. Do not compromise this frequency with further traffic. Out." The radio went dead. Silas lowered it. His eyes drifted right, followed the cliff line. Noticed something he'd catalogued earlier but hadn't really seen. A rope, thin, weathered, maybe a 1/4 inch thick, hanging from a rock outcropping about 40 yards to his right. Old, probably left by shepherds who used these cliffs before the war came and made everything kill or die. The rope hung down the eastern face of the ridge, the steep side, the side the Germans thought was impassable, the side that wasn't defended, because who would climb 200 feet of vertical limestone under combat conditions? Who would be that stupid? Silas thought about Dutch, about the 80-foot fall that ended everything. Thought about Brooks. About 38 minutes of drowning on dry land. Thought about the promise. Don't let them walk into another one. He pulled out his compass. The one his father had given him before he left. Farmer's logic. Always know which way is home. But home was 8,000 miles away, and in front of him was a rope, a cliff, and 17 reasons 300 men were about to die. He checked his watch. 2 minutes. The numbers shifted, reformed, became different odds. 300 men versus 17 machine guns equaled massacre. 1 man versus 17 machine guns from behind equaled maybe. Possibly. Perhaps. Either way, people were going to die. The only question was how many, and whether Silas could live with watching it happen when there was a rope 40 yards away and a promise in his chest that burned like swallowed coal. He thought about what Dutch would say, about testing your anchor. He thought about what Brooks would say, about not letting them walk into it. He thought about what command would say, about orders and regulations and proper channels. Then he stopped thinking, started moving, left his pack, kept his rifle, kept his pistol, kept Dutch's knife and Brooks's promise and his father's compass. The rope was weathered, frayed in places, had been hanging in Mediterranean weather for months, maybe years, might hold 160 pounds of farm boy plus weapons and gear. Might not. Silas wrapped his hand around it, pulled, felt it go taut, felt it hold. But holding for one pull and holding for 200 feet were different propositions entirely. He glanced at his watch one last time. 7:59. 1 minute. In 60 seconds, whistles would blow, men would advance, machine guns would open fire, and the numbers would resolve into body counts and casualty reports and letters home that started with, "We regret to inform you." Unless. Silas wrapped both hands around the rope, whispered something his father used to say. Back on the farm. Back when the hardest decision was which field to plant first. Son, sometimes doing right means doing what scares you most. He pulled himself onto the cliff face. Below him, 200 feet of air and stone and consequence. Above him, 17 machine guns and the calculus of salvation. Behind him, orders. Ahead of him, 300 lives that didn't know how close they were to becoming names on a wall. The rope creaked, held. Silas climbed. The first 10 feet were rope and faith. Silas's hands wrapped around weathered fiber, 1/4 inch thick, maybe less. The kind of rope that had seen weather, rain, sun, Mediterranean cycles that turned new rope into something that looked museum-worthy instead of load-bearing. He pulled. The rope held. Pulled again, harder, still held. But holding for a test pull and holding for 160 pounds plus gear were different promises. Below him, nothing but air and geometry. 200 feet down to limestone that didn't forgive, just stopped things with geological finality. The rifle on his back immediately became a problem. The M1903 Springfield, 43 inches long, 8.5 pounds unloaded. With the scope, it caught on every outcrop. 10 feet up, it snagged. Silas froze, felt the tug, felt the rifle want to pull him backward into space. He adjusted, twisted, felt the rifle slide free, kept climbing. 20 feet, 30. The rope bit into his palms, even through wool gloves, rough, abraded, like climbing sandpaper. 40 feet up, he made the mistake of glancing down. The ground was already too far, already at the distance where falling meant not getting up, where injured stopped being relevant and killed became the only applicable term. His hands were bleeding. He could feel it, the warmth inside the gloves, the stick and slip of blood on rope fiber. 50 feet, almost to the ledge, almost to where the rope ended and the real climbing began. Silas reached for the outcrop, got his left hand on it, pulled, felt his weight transfer from rope to rock. Solid. He got both feet onto the narrow ledge and examined the rope. Up close, in grey dawn light, the damage was obvious. 15% of the fibers were broken, just gone. frayed ends sticking out like broken bone through skin. The rope continued upward, another 70 feet, maybe 80. But if 15% was gone at 50 feet, what would it be higher up? He could go back, climb down, report what he'd seen, let command make the decision, follow orders, stay alive, stay out of a court-martial, and watch 300 men walk into 17 machine guns. Silas studied the cliff above, raw limestone, cracks, fissures, small ledges, the kind of terrain Dutch had taught him to read. Natural handholds, Dutch had said. Stone doesn't lie. Cracks go somewhere. Follow them. The rope above deteriorated further. The stone looked possible. Silas flexed his fingers. They were already stiff from cold and bleeding, but they worked. He thought about Brooks, about the promise, started climbing. Free climbing was different odds. With rope, the equation was binary. Rope holds or doesn't, yes or no. Without rope, every handhold was a calculation. Every foothold was a test. Silas found a crack, horizontal, 6 inches long, deep enough for 3 fingers. He inserted his right hand, felt stone on 3 sides, pulled, held, left foot up, found a nub, maybe an inch of protrusion, enough to balance, barely. This was how you climbed without rope, inch by inch, testing everything, trusting nothing until it proved trustworthy. 70 feet total, 80, 90. Below him now, the drop had gone from fatal to very fatal to extremely fatal, past the point where distance mattered. Dead was dead, whether you fell 80 feet or 150. His fingers were going numb, the cold soaking through everything, through gloves, through skin, into bone. 100 feet, halfway, maybe. Hard to judge from this angle. 115. His right hand found a hold, tested it, put weight on it. The stone crumbled, not slowly, not with warning, just broke, turned from solid to powder. Silas's weight shifted wrong, his right foot slipped, he fell. 8 feet in maybe 1 second. Enough time to understand, not enough time to act. His left hand caught an outcrop, purely by chance, purely by the universe deciding maybe today wasn't the day. The impact sent shock waves through his shoulder. His left hand clamped on stone, his body swung, the rifle on his back swung harder. The weight of the rifle pulled, tried to peel his fingers off stone. Silas's right hand scrabbled against cliff face, found nothing, found nothing, found something. A crack, shallow, maybe half an inch deep. He jammed his fingers in, felt stone bite, felt it hold. For 15 seconds he hung there, left hand on the outcrop, right hand in a crack barely deep enough to count, both feet dangling, the rifle doing its best to kill him through leverage and gravity. The radio on his belt crackled. "Silas!" The voice was young, Brooklyn accent, scared. "Silas, I saw you fall. You okay?" Renzo, Private Lorenzo DiMarco, spotter, friend, the one person who knew what Silas was attempting. Silas couldn't reach the radio, couldn't let go with either hand, could only hang and breathe and try to find his feet. "Silas, answer me, God damn it!" Silas got his right foot onto a small ledge, got weight on it, got his left foot somewhere, anywhere. Found another handhold, better this time, deeper. His breathing slowed, his heart stopped trying to explode. He moved his left hand to the radio, keyed it. "Still here, rope's gone, free climbing now." The relief in Renzo's voice was obvious. "Jesus Christ, Silas, you're insane." "Probably. How's the company?" "Starting to move. You got maybe 25 minutes. 25 minutes. Silas examined the stone above him. Gonna be close. "Just don't die, okay? I don't want to explain how I let you climb a cliff solo. I'll do my best." Silas released the radio, kept climbing. The last 50 feet took 10 minutes. Not because they were harder, because they had to be silent. At 150 feet, Silas could hear them. German voices, young, talking, laughing, men who didn't know death was climbing toward them from below. He could smell cigarette smoke, German cigarettes, sharper than American, less sweet. Each handhold now had to be tested without sound. Each foot placement had to be slow, deliberate. At 190 feet, he could see the top, could see where vertical became horizontal, and could hear a German soldier maybe 30 yards beyond. Silas moved slower, each movement measured in minutes instead of seconds. 198. His right hand reached over the edge, found flat ground, found blessed, horizontal, level ground. He pulled, got his shoulders over, got his chest over, rolled onto the plateau, lay flat, face pressed into cold stone and dead grass. For 30 seconds, he didn't move, just breathed, just let his heart rate drop below rupture levels. 37 minutes past 8, 23 minutes until Baker Company advanced. Silas lifted his head, slow, careful. He was 40 yards behind the easternmost machine gun position. A cluster of stunted pines provided concealment. Through their branches, he could see a German helmet, the back of a field grey uniform. The German was facing forward, looking at the valley, looking anywhere except behind. None of them were looking behind, because who would be behind them? Who would climb the impossible cliff? Silas pulled himself to a crouch, moved behind the pines, started his assessment. From this angle he could see them all. 17 machine gun positions, arranged in a rough semicircle, each one professionally constructed, each one with overhead cover and interlocking fields of fire, each one staffed by 2 or 3 men. Quick calculation, 38 soldiers minimum, maybe 42, young, healthy, armed with the most effective machine gun in the European theatre, versus one farm boy from Iowa with a rifle, a pistol, and 4 grenades. The odds still didn't favor Silas, but the odds had changed. They were looking the wrong way. That was worth more than numbers. Silas took inventory. M1903 Springfield rifle, 5 rounds in the magazine, 20 more in pouches, long range, accurate, but loud. One shot would alert every German on this ridge. M1911 pistol, 7 rounds, suppressor attached, not silent, but quiet enough, maybe. 4 Mark II fragmentation grenades, 5-second fuse, lethal radius 30 feet. Dutch's knife, 6-inch blade, quiet, personal, final. And time, 22 minutes before whistles blew and men died. Not enough time to be careful, just enough time to be effective. Silas drew the suppressed pistol, moved toward the first position. Position 1 was 2 Germans, sitting in the bunker, backs to Silas, observing the valley through binoculars, taking turns, pointing, planning how to murder Americans efficiently. Silas was 15 feet away. 10, 5. The pistol made a sound like a hand clap, twice, 1 second apart. Both Germans fell forward, slumped over their MG-42, didn't make noise, didn't have time. Silas moved fast, grabbed the first body, pulled it back into the bunker, out of sight. Then the second. Positions 2 and 3 were connected by a communication trench, 3 soldiers total. The trench was narrow, maybe 18 inches wide, dug through limestone and hope. Silas entered the trench, moved quiet, found the first German crouched, back turned. The knife went in below the shoulder blade, angled up, found the heart fast. The German made a sound, small, wet, surprised, then nothing. Silas lowered him down, quiet, moved to position 2, 2 Germans, both observing through the gun port. The pistol twice more, 2 bodies, 20 minutes. Position 4 was a single German, older than the others, maybe 30, smoking a cigarette, standing outside his bunker, watching the sunrise. Silas observed him from 20 feet away, watched him smoke, watched him enjoy the last cigarette he'd ever have. When the German turned, Silas was there, 15 feet away, pistol raised. The German's eyes went wide, mouth open to yell. The suppressed round took him in the throat. The yell became a gurgle. The gurgle became silence. The German fell, but his rifle clattered against the bunker entrance, metal on stone, loud in the morning quiet. From position 5, a voice, young, concerned. "Klaus, alles gut?" Silas pressed himself against the bunker wall, didn't move, didn't breathe.
Footsteps, coming closer. "Klaus?"
The German from position 5 appeared around the corner, saw Klaus on the ground, saw the blood. His eyes tracked up, found Silas. His mouth opened. Silas moved. 3 steps. Collision. Hand over the German's mouth. Knife to the throat. 3 seconds of struggle. Then stillness. But the German's rifle had fallen, had hit the rocks. From position 7, another voice, sharp, alert. Eindringling! Amerikaner! Intruder, American. The alarm spread like fire through dry grass. Stealth was over. Speed began. Silas grabbed the grenades from his belt, all 4, pulled pins. Positions 6, 7, and 8 were clustered together, maybe 30 feet separating them. Silas threw. The first grenade into position 6, second into 7, third into 8. He dove back into position 5's bunker as they detonated. The sound was enormous, overlapping, 3 explosions becoming one continuous thunder, smoke, debris, screaming. When Silas emerged, positions 6 through 8 were craters, but the remaining positions were alert now, fully alert. Germans shouting, moving, some turning their MG-42s around, trying to traverse weapons dug in facing west. Can't traverse 180 degrees when you're in a fixed position. Can't shoot behind you when your gun port faces forward. But they were trying, and some had rifles. Silas grabbed the MG-42 from position 1. 1,200 rounds per minute. He'd never fired one before. But the controls were obvious. Trigger, safety, feed. He aimed at positions 9, 10, and 11, pulled the trigger. The MG-42 lived up to its reputation. The sound was catastrophic. The recoil was brutal. The effect was devastating. 20 rounds across 3 positions in 2 seconds. Germans ducking, Germans falling. 18 minutes. Positions 12 through 17, the far western end, where Germans had abandoned trying to turn their weapons and had simply grabbed rifles and started advancing. 12 men, maybe 15, moving through cover, using fire and maneuver, professional, trained. Silas dropped the empty MG-42, grabbed his Springfield. This was farm boy calculation, Iowa math, the kind he'd learned shooting coyotes at 300 yards. The first German appeared from behind cover, 400 yards, moving fast. Silas led him by 2 feet, squeezed. The Springfield bucked, the German dropped. Second target, 380 yards, stationary, squeeze, drop. Third target, 420 yards, running, lead, squeeze, drop. The remaining Germans dove for cover, stopped advancing, started retreating. Silas worked the bolt, found another target, fired, worked the bolt, target, fire. 90 seconds, 8 shots. The remaining 5 broke, abandoned their positions, ran north into the hills. 15 minutes past 8. The ridge was quiet, and somewhere in the valley below, Baker Company was forming up to advance into a killing zone that no longer existed. Silas's hands were shaking, adrenaline, exhaustion, blood loss from the climb, all hitting at once. He sat down on the bunker, hard. His legs just stopped working. The radio crackled. All units, heavy fire on Ridge 93. Recommend hold position pending clarification. Captain Mitchell, battalion commander. Good man, careful man. Silas grabbed the radio. His hand shook so hard it took 2 tries to key the transmit button. Command, this is Sierra 2. Ridge East section clear. Repeat, clear. German positions neutralized. Recommend immediate advance. Silence. Long silence. Sierra 2, clarify. What unit cleared the ridge? No unit, sir. Just me. More silence. Corporal Hadley, did you say you cleared 17 positions alone? 14, sir. 3 enemy fled. Eastern ridge is secure. Captain Mitchell's voice changed, lost the official tone, became something more human. Jesus Christ, Hadley, hold position. Baker Company inbound. They found him sitting on the bunker. Sergeant Cole Patterson led the squad up the eastern slope. 32 years old, Boston accent, combat veteran, the kind of NCO who'd seen enough war to not be surprised by much. But he was surprised now. Hadley, Silas managed a nod. Patterson's eyes swept the ridge, the destroyed bunkers, the bodies, the specific evidence of violence recently concluded. What the actual fuck? Took the scenic route, Sarge. Patterson walked through position 1, position 2, counting bodies, counting positions. He came back, really studied Silas, saw the blood on his hands, the torn gloves, the exhaustion. How did you even get up here? Silas pointed at the cliff edge, at the 200-foot drop. Rope. Patterson walked to the edge, studied the rope, the distance, turned back. That's impossible. Tell that to Dutch. He taught me. Dutch Keller? The sergeant who died in Sicily? Yeah, he died climbing, but he taught me how first. Behind Patterson, 3 soldiers had followed up the slope. Private Vernon, Morris, Kowalski. The men Silas would soon lead. By 10 minutes after 8, the ridge was fully secured. Baker Company had cleared the remaining positions, found the wounded Germans, started processing them as POWs. The final count came in. German casualties, 32 killed, 9 wounded captured, 6 to 8 fled. American casualties from the ridge assault, 0 killed, 3 wounded, minor wounds, all walking wounded. What was prevented? Intelligence estimated 180 American casualties if the attack had proceeded as planned, 60 killed, 120 wounded. What actually happened? 3 scratches. Difference: 1 man, 1 rope, 1 decision. Renzo found Silas sitting alone on the eastern bunker, observing the valley where Charlie Company was still forming up. They'd never advance now. Wouldn't need to. The ridge was taken, the threat was gone, the numbers had resolved without them. They'd never know, would never understand how close they'd come to walking into industrial slaughter. Renzo sat beside Silas, didn't say anything for a long moment. You saved them all, you know. Silas examined his hands, the blood, the torn gloves, the evidence of climbing and killing. I broke every rule doing it. Brooks would say that's exactly right. The name hit hard. Brooks, the promise, the 38 minutes. Silas was quiet for a long time. Dutch died climbing. I almost did too. Fell 8 feet, caught myself with one hand. The rifle almost pulled me off. But you made it. Yeah, but Dutch didn't. Dutch died because he climbed alone. I climbed alone too. But Brooks died because we walked into a trap. Because intelligence was wrong and no one listened when I said so. I couldn't let that be 180 Brooks. Renzo nodded. Understood. How many did you kill? 14 personal. The grenades got more. Total 32. And you saved, conservatively, 180. Maybe. If intelligence was right about what would have happened. Intelligence. The same intelligence that said this ridge was lightly defended. Silas laughed. Bitter. Short. Yeah, that intelligence. In the distance, Silas could see officers gathering. Lieutenant Ashford gesturing, pointing at the ridge, probably pointing at Silas. They're going to court-martial you, Renzo said. Probably. Was it worth it? Silas studied the valley. The men who were alive because of broken rules and unauthorized climbing. Ask me after the trial. But he already knew the answer. Lieutenant Garrett Ashford arrived at 45 minutes past 8, 27 years old, West Point class of 1942, pressed uniform even in a combat zone. The kind of officer who believed rules existed for reasons, and those reasons were always good ones. He found Silas sitting on the bunker, hands still shaking, blood still drying on torn gloves. Corporal Hadley. Silas managed to stand. His legs protested but obeyed. Sir. Ashford's face was unreadable, parade ground neutral, but his eyes were doing calculations. Major Hollis wants to see you, immediately. Yes, sir. Leave your weapons here. Silas unbuckled his belt, set down the Springfield, the pistol, the empty grenade pouches, Dutch's knife. Let's go. They walked in silence, down the ridge, through positions Baker Company was securing, past German bodies, past American soldiers who stopped to stare. Word had already spread, the way it always did, faster than radio. One guy climbed the cliff, took out 17 positions, alone. The numbers were already wrong, already growing, already becoming legend instead of fact. Ashford finally spoke, voice low, tight. "You made me look incompetent." Silas said nothing. "I reported your warning to battalion. They dismissed it. Division intelligence confirmed light resistance. I relayed that assessment. Standard procedure. Still nothing. And then you disobeyed direct orders, conducted an unauthorized solo assault, made every decision above you appear wrong." Silas stopped walking, met Ashford's eyes. "They were wrong, sir." "That's not the point." "Respectfully, sir, that's exactly the point. Intelligence said light resistance. I counted 17 machine guns. They were wrong. You relayed wrong information. I disobeyed wrong orders." Ashford's jaw tightened. "Are you trying to make this worse?" "No, sir. Just stating facts." "The facts are you violated Article 90, disobeying a direct order in a combat zone. That's a court-martial offense. Minimum 5 years confinement, possible dishonorable discharge." "Yes, sir." "And you did it anyway?" "Yes, sir." Ashford studied him, seemed to be trying to understand something that didn't fit into West Point tactical training. "Why?" Silas thought about Brooks, about the 38 minutes, about the promise. "Because 300 men were about to walk into numbers that didn't work, sir, and I was the only one who could change the equation. Battalion headquarters was a farmhouse, half destroyed, walls mostly standing, roof mostly gone. But it had a table and maps and radio equipment. That made it headquarters. Major Warren Hollis was 42, career officer, enlisted in 1920, worked his way up through the ranks before getting a commission, the kind of officer who'd been a sergeant first, who understood the gap between what the manual said and what the ground required. He glanced up when Silas entered. His face gave nothing away. "Corporal Hadley." "Sir." "Sit." Silas sat. Ashford remained standing, at attention. Witness and accuser both. On Hollis's table was a topographic map. Ridge 93 circled in red. 17 positions marked. Lines drawn showing fields of fire. Hollis picked up a sheet of paper. "After action report, fresh typed. Lieutenant Ashford's report states you violated direct orders not to engage enemy positions, climbed unauthorized terrain, conducted solo assault on fortified defensive line. Is this accurate?" "Yes, sir." "Do you deny any of these charges?" "No, sir." Hollis set down the paper, picked up another. Casualty estimates. "Captain Mitchell, what were projected casualties for the 0800 attack on Ridge 93? Mitchell was standing in the corner. He stepped forward. "Based on the machine gun positions Corporal Hadley reported, sir, we're looking at 150 to 200 casualties, possibly 60 killed outright." "And actual casualties?" 3 wounded, sir. Privates Kowalski, Henderson, and Moore. Minor wounds from shrapnel during mop-up operations. All returned to duty." Hollis studied the numbers. The gap between projected and actual, between what should have happened and what did. 180 lives that existed in the space between those numbers. He met Silas's eyes. "Explain your tactical decision, Corporal." Silas took a breath, organized his thoughts, spoke clearly. "Sir, at 0700, I confirmed visual on 17 MG42 positions, reverse slope emplacements, interlocking fields of fire, every approach route covered. I reported to command via Lieutenant Ashford. Request for delay was denied. Division intelligence assessment stood, light resistance only." Hollis nodded, listening. "Attack was scheduled for 0800, air support at 0900, 1 hour after our men would be in the kill zone. I assessed 2 options." Silas paused. This was the part that mattered. Option A, obey orders, maintain position. Watch 180 men die, maybe more. Option B, disobey orders. Attempt solo neutralization from an undefended approach. High probability of personal death, low probability of success, but some probability. And you chose option B. "Yes, sir." "Why?" Because option A's risk was their lives, sir. Option B's risk was mine. I'm one man. They're 300. The calculation was simple. The room was quiet. You could hear wind through the broken roof, could hear distant voices of men securing positions, could hear everything except what anyone was thinking. Hollis stood, walked to the window, studied Ridge 93, the positions that had been cleared, the valley where men were standing down from an assault that would have destroyed them. He was quiet for a long time. When he turned back, his face had changed. Not much, just enough. Corporal Hadley, your actions today violated Articles 90 and 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. By regulation, I should convene a court-martial. Silas nodded, expected. However, the word hung in the air. You also provided accurate intelligence that division-level assets failed to gather. You neutralized a defensive position that would have inflicted 60% casualties on 2 companies. And you demonstrated tactical initiative consistent with the Army's stated values. Hollis turned to Ashford. Lieutenant, you will revise your report. Corporal Hadley did not disobey orders. He exercised battlefield initiative when presented with time-critical intelligence and an undefended infiltration route. His actions were consistent with his mission to protect advancing forces. Are we clear? Ashford's jaw was tight enough to crack teeth, but his voice came out level. Yes, sir. Hollis faced Silas again. Effective immediately, you're promoted to sergeant. You'll lead a reconnaissance section for this battalion. 6 men. High-risk operations. Captain Mitchell will have operational command, but you'll train the personnel and execute the missions. He paused. And Sergeant Hadley? Sir? Next time you decide to climb a cliff and assault 17 machine guns, you radio me first. Not a lieutenant, not a captain, me directly. Understood? Yes, sir. Hollis picked up Sergeant's stripes from his desk, handed them to Silas. Dismissed, Sergeant. 2 weeks later, Major Hollis called Silas back to headquarters. Your reconnaissance section is approved. 6 men. You pick them. Silas had already made his list. Renzo DeMarco, spotter, friend. Cole Patterson, squad leader, combat veteran. Vernon, Morris, and Kowalski. Volunteers who understood that some missions required breaking rules intelligently. What's the mission profile? Silas asked. High-risk intelligence gathering. Direct action when required. You'll operate ahead of the main force. Identify defensive positions. Eliminate high-value targets when opportunity presents. Hollis slid a folder across the table. Your first target, German artillery observation post, 3 miles north, directing fire on our supply routes. Division wants it gone. Silas opened the folder, studied the maps, the intelligence photos, the terrain. When? Tomorrow night. Your team, your plan, your execution. Just bring them back. The first mission went clean, infiltrated at night, climbed to the observation post, eliminated the 4-man crew, destroyed the radio equipment, exfiltrated before dawn. 0 friendly casualties. The second mission was harder. Recon of German armor concentration. They got the intelligence, got photos, got out, but they were spotted on extraction. Firefight. Private Morris took a round through the shoulder. They carried him out. He survived. Barely. The third mission was sabotage. Supply cache. They blew it. Got out clean. By March, Hadley's ghosts were battalion legend. The fourth mission cost them Vernon. Private First Class David Vernon, 22. Mechanic from Michigan. Good with explosives. Better with jokes. They were reconning German armor positions when the patrol surprised them. Ambush from 3 sides. Vernon was on point, saw them first. Could have dropped, could have hidden. Instead, he stood, opened fire, drew every German gun toward himself. Go! He screamed. I got them! Go! Silas hesitated. 1 second. 2. That's an order, Sergeant! Vernon's BAR was thundering. Get them out! They ran. Patterson, Morris, Kowalski, Renzo, Silas last. Behind them, Vernon's fire slowed, stopped. Then, silence. They brought his body back at dawn, found him surrounded by brass casings, still gripping his weapon. 8 Germans dead in a semicircle around him. 22 years old, mechanic from Michigan who told jokes even when there was nothing funny. Gone, because covering withdrawal meant standing when everyone else ran. Silas sat with the body all night, alone in a tent, staring at the canvas bag that contained what was left of Vernon. Renzo found him at dawn.
"It's not your fault. I led him there.
And you brought 4 back. Vernon knew the risks. Doesn't make it easier. No, but it makes it worth it. Vernon died so Patterson and Morris and Kowalski could live. That's the arithmetic you taught us." Silas met his eyes. "I hate the arithmetic." "I know, but you're good at them." By May, when the Anzio breakout finally came, Hadley's ghosts had run 12 missions, all successful, 2 men wounded, 1 killed. Intelligence gathered that saved an estimated 60 to 80 additional lives. When Rome fell on June 4, 1944, Silas's section was credited in after-action reports as providing critical tactical intelligence. His name appeared in footnote 47. No details, no specifics, just field initiative by NCO contributed to reduced casualties during multiple operations. That was it. 180 lives saved at Anzio, 60 more in subsequent months, 14 enemy killed personally, 32 total from the Ridge action. Footnote 47. July brought the official Army Historical Section, 3 officers, colonels, from Washington. None had been to Italy before. None had climbed cliffs or counted machine guns or watched friends drown in their own blood. They interviewed battalion command, took notes, reviewed after-action reports. Their conclusion, published in September 1944, Lessons from Anzio, Combined Arms Integration in Amphibious Operations. 60 pages, comprehensive, well-written. It credited proper coordination between infantry, armor, and air support for minimizing casualties. It praised division intelligence for identifying key defensive positions. It recommended improved communication between tactical and operational command levels. Silas Hadley's name appeared nowhere. The rope appeared nowhere. The cliff appeared nowhere. The 17 machine guns were mentioned once, in the context of enemy defensive preparations successfully countered through combined arms application. The 180 lives existed only as lower than projected casualty rates. The colonels had taken the outcome, written it like they'd planned it, like it was doctrine instead of desperation, like it was strategy instead of one farm boy who couldn't watch his friends die. They'd stolen it, not the glory. Silas didn't care about glory. They'd stolen the truth, turned it into bureaucratic success, into institutional effectiveness, into evidence that the system worked. When the system had failed, had dismissed warnings, had ordered men into slaughter, and one corporal had said no. But that story didn't fit the narrative, didn't support the conclusion, didn't make the generals look good. So it became footnote 47, and Silas Hadley became an unnamed NCO whose initiative contributed to operational success. When Germany surrendered in May 1945, Silas came home. 4 wounds, 2 serious, 2 minor. Bronze Star for valor, Purple Heart with 3 oak leaf clusters, European Campaign Medal. He returned to Iowa, to the farm, to soil that didn't hide machine guns. In 1948, he married Eleanor Jenkins, local schoolteacher. They'd written letters during the war, pen pals that became something more. They had 3 children, William, Margaret, James. Silas expanded the farm, became one of the most successful wheat producers in the county, served on the school board, went to church on Sundays. He never talked about the war. When people asked, he'd say, "I was a scout, observed enemy positions, nothing exciting." His children grew up not knowing their father had climbed a cliff and killed 14 men and saved 180 lives before breakfast. Eleanor knew. She'd read between the lines of his letters, had seen the nightmares he didn't talk about. But she didn't push, just held him when the dreams came, when he'd wake up counting, 1 through 17, over and over. 1989. Dr. Sarah Chen, military historian, Stanford University, researching Anzio. She found the discrepancy by accident. Official Army report, Combined arms coordination resulted in minimal casualties. Battalion casualty logs: Ridge 93 secured, 0 KIA, 3 WIA. Results inconsistent with intelligence projections. Why inconsistent? She dug deeper, found Captain Mitchell's after-action report, found the phrase, "Field initiative by Corporal Hadley enabled approach from undefended axis," found footnote 47, found no other mentions. She started making calls. 3rd Infantry Division Association, veterans groups. Most were dead. 45 years was a long time. But she found Lorenzo DiMarco, 66 years old, retired NYPD detective, Brooklyn, and Renzo told her everything. 3 weeks later, Dr. Chen drove to Iowa, found a farmhouse. White paint, red barn, wheat fields stretching to the horizon. Found Silas Hadley, 67 years old, still farming, still quiet. They sat on the porch. Eleanor brought coffee, left them alone. "Mr. Hadley, I'm researching the Anzio campaign. Your name came up." "I was just a scout. Mr. DiMarco told me differently." Silas was quiet, studied the wheat, the land that didn't shoot back. "Renzo talks too much. He said you climbed a 200-foot cliff, alone, cleared 14 machine gun positions, saved conservatively 180 lives." "Renzo's numbers are inflated." "Are they?" Silas sipped his coffee. The cup shook slightly. The way hands shake when they remember climbing, when they remember killing. "What do you want, Dr. Chen?" "The truth. The official history says combined arms coordination, division intelligence, proper planning. But the casualty numbers don't match. Someone changed that equation." "A lot of people contributed, but someone climbed a cliff." Silas was quiet for a long time. "It was a rope first. Then free climbing. The rope was mostly rotten. I fell 8 feet, caught myself with one hand, almost didn't make it." "But you did." "Yeah, I made it. Killed 14 men, maybe saved 150, maybe 200. The official report doesn't mention you." "I know. That doesn't bother you." Silas really studied her. His eyes were still sharp, still the eyes of someone who could count machine guns at 600 yards. "Dr. Chen, I didn't climb that cliff for a medal. I climbed it because my friend Brooks made me promise not to let men walk into traps. Because I'd watched him die over 38 minutes, and I couldn't let that happen to 300 people. He set down his coffee. "The army can have the credit. I got to see Renzo's grandkids, got to farm, got to watch my children grow up. That's enough recognition." "But the historical record is what colonels write in offices. The real record is Patterson still sending me Christmas cards, is Morris naming his son after Vernon, is every December 22nd I get letters from men who were in Baker Company, men who are alive to send letters." He stood. Interview over. "You write your dissertation, Dr. Chen. You tell the truth if you want. But I'm not looking for recognition 45 years late." That night, after Dr. Chen left, Silas sat alone on the porch. Eleanor found him there, holding something small, a photograph, faded, creased from 45 years in a wallet. Brooks Nathaniel, 20 years old, farm boy smile, taken the day before Italy. "You kept it," Eleanor said quietly. "I made him a promise, wanted to make sure I remembered who I made it to." She sat beside him, waited. "He asked me not to let them walk into another trap. That's all. Just don't let them walk into it." Silas studied the wheat fields, the land that had never betrayed him. 300 men didn't walk into it because I remembered. Vernon died, but 4 came back. Morris got wounded, but he healed. The numbers worked because Brooks asked me to make them work. He carefully placed the photograph back in his wallet. The wallet he'd carried through 4 more campaigns, through 45 years of farming, through a life Brooks never got. "I kept the promise," he whispered. "Took me 1 cliff, 14 Germans, and a lot of broken rules. But I kept it." Eleanor took his hand, said nothing, because sometimes the only answer to a kept promise is silence and presence. And that was enough. Dr. Chen published her dissertation in 1991. Individual Initiative at Anzio, a case study in tactical decision-making. It told the whole story: the rope, the climb, the 14 positions, the 180 lives. It named Silas Hadley. It became required reading at the infantry school at Fort Benning. But Silas never read it. Already lived it once, don't need to read about it. June 12, 2004. Silas Hadley died in his sleep, heart failure, 82 years old, surrounded by family. The funeral was small: family, friends from church, neighbors, and 6 elderly men nobody recognized. After the service, they introduced themselves to Silas's children. The first man was 79, thin, grey, but standing straight. I was Private Morrison, Baker Company, January 44. I would have been in the first wave on Ridge 93. Your father is why I got to marry my wife, raise 3 kids, teach school for 40 years. The second man was 81, wheelchair, but his handshake was firm. Private Collins, Charlie Company, same. All 6 had the same story. Different names, different lives, same reason they were alive. A rope, a cliff, a farm boy who couldn't watch them die. They'd driven from across the country, flown, made the journey they'd had 45 years to make because of numbers that shouldn't have worked, but did. They stayed until everyone else left. Then they saluted the casket and left. Today, National Infantry Museum, Fort Benning, Georgia, 3rd floor. World War II exhibit, small display case in the corner. Inside, 1 weathered rope, 1/4 inch thick, frayed, donated 1990 by the Italian government. 1 M1903 Springfield rifle. Serial number matching battalion records. 1 topographic map. Anzio, January 1944. Ridge 93 circled in faded red pencil. 17 positions marked. 1 photograph. Young soldier, 22 years old, intense eyes, Iowa farm boy face. The placard reads, Field Initiative, Anzio 1944. On January 22, 1944, 1 reconnaissance NCO identified 17 German machine gun positions that Division Intelligence had missed. When his warning was dismissed, he acted on his own initiative, climbing a 200-foot cliff to approach from an undefended axis. In 17 minutes, he neutralized 14 enemy positions, enabling friendly forces to advance with minimal casualties. Estimated lives saved, 180 to 220. His actions exemplify individual initiative under combat conditions. Sergeant Silas Hadley, 3rd Infantry Division, 1922 to 2004. Not footnote 47 anymore. His name, his story, his truth. The museum closes at 5. The guard walks through, turns off lights, locks doors. The display case remains. The rope that shouldn't have held. The rifle that killed 14. The map that showed 17. The photograph of a farm boy who understood numbers differently than the colonels, who understood that 300 lives versus 1 life wasn't a difficult equation, who understood that sometimes doing right means disobeying wrong, who climbed when told to wait, who fought when ordered to watch, who saved who he could. The army forgot his name for 60 years, but 6 old men remembered, and now, standing in the museum, reading the placard, understanding the story.